session 9 of our Writing Realistic Fiction unit. As you can see, I've sort of switched up the scene a little bit. I'm changing the setting. I realized that sitting at my desk just wasn't best serving me anymore, and so I'm sitting on the floor. And actually, I'd welcome you to have a similar reflection. How is your workspace working out for you? Do you need to have conversations with the people that you live with to sort of renegotiate where you work and how you work? Sometimes little conversations like this make a world of difference in our productivity. And today might just be the perfect time for you to be having that conversation with the people around you. As we dive into our work for today, let's keep this idea of scene and setting in our brains. And the reason is that sometimes we forget about them in our stories. And as amazing writers, we tend to go towards dialogue or action, which, granted, that's what I've been talking about a lot. So it's important in due time that we talk about scenes. In our work for today, I want to remind you that dialogue can't just live by itself, that we need to create a scene where our characters move around in, interact with, at the same time that they're having conversations. All right, writers, let's talk about some of the characteristics of a scene before we do some critiquing of our work. The very first thing to know and remember about a scene is that they are small moments and mini stories, that they have clear settings woven throughout, that they have characters who are talking, thinking, acting, and a lot of times doing all three of those things. Finally, scenes contain character motivations and obstacles. As we write each one of the scenes in our story arcs, we want to be certain that these four characteristics are in every single one of our scenes. Let's look at some of my work where I definitely need to build out some scenes. And maybe it'll give you some ideas for revision work that you can do in your own stories. So I want to spend some time looking at my phone call scene. My phone call scene is the first scene. I chose after yesterday's work to do a mood lead, and I feel pretty good about that. But it's this part of the scene where I have a lot of dialogue, and you can tell by all the quotation marks that you see. Let's use our checklist and go through. Matthew rolled out of bed, but not before checking the time, resenting how early it was and blaming his immature, irresponsible, selfish father. He picked up the kitchen phone and with a tone devoid of love, said, "Hey, Dad." "Son, I was going to the store and wanted to offer." "Dad, you don't drive. You don't go to the store anymore. Listen, I've got your list. I'll go today, but you're not. Stay home. Relax. Let me take care of this for you." All right, well, I definitely have characters talking, I have characters thinking, a little bit of acting. Maybe I want to include that. Make a note of that right now. Um, movement, add movement. All right, remember, we have three other things that we want to be looking for. Oh, okay, well, make sure you get some 2%. I'm running low. Can I give you any money? No. Dad, I've got a card to your account. You're good. Matthew shuffled in his pajamas, stretching and rubbing his eyes. Dad, listen. I know it's hard being trapped inside. Go for a walk. Go for a bike ride. You love your bike. I'll be over later with the groceries. There was silence on the other line. I love you, Dad. Matthew said it slowly, like a parent to their child. You too. Love you too. So, writers, I do feel like I have character motivations here. That Matthew is trying to act like a good son. And in some ways, the father's trying to be an obedient father. He's not going against what Matthew says. Let's keep going because we've got 2 more things and I'm almost done with this scene. Matthew clicked the phone against the receiver and leaned his head onto his elbow. He lived for solitary moments like this. Dad, Dad, can you make pancakes? He looked down at his daughter's face. The sunbeams gently glided on her shoulders. Sure, honey, get the flour out. Matthew said it slowly, like a parent to their child. Well, all right, my friends. I definitely feel like this is a small moment. By the end of it, it was almost an argument between father and son, but I certainly don't have any kind of clear setting woven throughout. I mentioned the kitchen up here, and we talk about getting the flour out down here, but woven, that's not woven. So I need to do some setting work in here. Can you pause the video for 2 minutes right now? And will you help me do some of this setting work? How can I describe what Matthew's kitchen looks like here? Pause the video. Hey friends, welcome back. So this is a very quick clip to show you how I did this revision work in my story. It is 25 seconds, which actually took more like 10 minutes. You can see that revision work takes a while and it goes up and down and back and forth. At the end, I highlighted all of my work in blue so you could see just how much I did. Writers, as you go off to your work time today and begin thinking about the revision work that you'll be doing, it's really important to remember that you want to look for the places where there is just a little bit too much dialogue and not enough action, not enough setting work. I'm going to leave the anchor chart for your setting checklist here in case you want to pause it or come back to it as you're working today. I also want to remind you how today we spent a lot of time thinking about how we can ground scenes with too much dialogue and action and setting work. Friends, as you go off to your work time today, you have one very specific goal, and that is to have a final finished draft by the time we see each other next. Okay, maybe not a final draft, but certainly a finished draft. The reason is because our next session is going to be all about endings, and it's important to me that you have an ending to work with. So remember that you're not just aiming to ground your scenes with too much dialogue in setting and action, but you're also aiming to finish your draft. I'm so excited to see where our stories take us. And until next time,
So
happy writing.